So thanks again for joining us for this fourth session. For those of you that have been here, thanks for the 4 weeks or for many other weeks. Thank you for your attention and your participation. There have been some really great questions and some really good feedback as well. And if you're just joining today for your first time, that's also fantastic. To tell you a little bit about me, my name is Michael Roach. I'm a digital marketing strategist consultant, and what I do is help businesses and nonprofits with their marketing strategies and their marketing efforts to gain customers and also keep them. I'm based in the upstate New York area. I started my career as a graphic designer and then got into marketing, but I also use technology in a lot of the things that I do. In addition to that, I'm a past president of the American Marketing Association in the New York Capital Region chapter. And so that's a little bit about me. This week, what we'll be covering in this session is just kind of finishing off e-commerce, but what we did over the number of the weeks, we talked about social media, some basics of digital marketing. We also covered e-commerce and its history and up until today. And we talked a little bit about some of the platforms that exist out there when it comes to e-commerce. Just to kind of put a nice bow and ribbon on the e-commerce conversation from the third session, I thought I'd tell folks a little bit about how someone might find your e-commerce website, or maybe the things that you can do to make sure that people find your e-commerce website. Because when you launch a website, no one may know about it but you. How do you tell people that it exists? How are you going to get traffic to that site? So these are some ways, and none of these are just independent or exclusive. You can do more than one of these, a number of these at the same time. If your budget and your resources permit it. Just to go over some of these here, organic and paid social media. If you have a Facebook, a LinkedIn, an Instagram account, social media, if you're posting organically and then you run campaigns on your social media, which paid social media we'll talk about a little bit today. If you do things like that, you're going to eventually start to draw traffic to your e-commerce website. If you have organic website content in the form of blogs, blog articles, or even product pages where you have rich content, maybe videos and other types of things that people can consume on your website, that's going to help people find your e-commerce site. Doing things like digital advertising, you can do offline advertising. Maybe you're doing things like public relations, or maybe you're covered in a newspaper, local paper, or covered on one of the cable channels, and someone's doing a story on you. Those kinds of things will help people find your e-commerce website. So it's up to you. Once you launch the site, you're not done. You still have to get the word out there and get people to go to your site and buy your products and services. Last thing I want to say about this, a lot of times people will, they won't acknowledge, or they really don't pay attention to the email marketing tactic as a way to get people to find your e-commerce website. So if you can use, let's say, social media and then have people subscribe to your email marketing list, then you can kind of encourage people to come back and visit your e-commerce website. And then finally, forming strategic partnerships. This is a great way to find people to come to your e-commerce site. Now, what I mean by that is forming some sort of deal or way that you can link up with another business or another brand in your community, or maybe both of your businesses or a few of your businesses are passionate about one particular thing. maybe you can form some strategic partnership and share your audience. That can be a great way for people to find your e-commerce site. Okay, so what I wanted to do is just show some examples on how, if we were to chain these kinds of things together. Here in this example, in this stack here, you might launch a paid social ad, which will then get traffic to your product page on your website. Maybe the user doesn't buy, but you can remarket to them. And that means that once they've visited your page, and if you're using your website in a way that you can see who visits and then store some sort of record so that when they go somewhere else, you can show them another ad about your website. So it's kind of the word we use, remarketing. You could remarket to that person. That person sees the ad again, they share it with their close friend, and then that friend does a purchase on your online store. So that's kind of like one example of how someone could find your business and do business with you. Or you could do something like a paid search ad. Maybe you're doing Google ads, which you're trying to get traffic to your landing page on your website. The user completes a form for video exclusives about your product, all right, which could then lead to sales. Another example, if you do a podcast interview, and in that interview, you're being asked many questions about why you started your business, some of the things that you've run into as challenges and issues, and what the outlook looks like for your business. And as an offer, you want to offer a promo code to that podcast listeners. So that offer, it could be used on your website at purchase. So that's another example. And finally, creating organic web content on your website through the form of a blog. And as people come on to read that blog content, maybe you have a pop-up. That pop-up encourages people to sign up to an email list that you have. And in that email, you might send regular emails that have promotional details in it. And a user is going to potentially buy a product from your online store. So these are just some pathways, if you will, that people could get to do a sale or do a purchase with you through some of these marketing examples. So now that we kind of talked a little bit about e-commerce and some pathways, we should definitely talk about search engine optimization. It's hard to just completely forget about this topic if we're talking about websites, because this term does come up quite a bit. A lot of times people refer to it as just SEO. And so SEO, all it is it's a process of really improving your site to increase visibility when people are searching for your products and services through a search engine like Google, Yahoo, or Bing, and some of the other ones, maybe DuckDuckGo. So yes, this is a process. And I want to really emphasize that it is a process, because this is not something that you can do once and never go back to it again. It's something that is an ongoing process, just like marketing in general. You shouldn't never just market once and then turn your back on it. It's something that you're looking to do, but also improve and study and measure. So what does this process look like? This process involves you doing some research about your audience, you trying to find out what are some of the keywords based on the things that people might be searching for when they're looking for your product or your service. It might involve writing or rewriting some of the pages and content on your website so that they're more user-friendly, use words that your consumer uses, or even some of the keywords that we had talked about. So I like this this diagram because it kind of shows in a way what the web entails when you have a search engine. So here, a search engine has these little programs, these bots, these spiders, web crawlers. And what they do, like Google, these things go out and they just organize, collect, they gather information about the web pages out there. They find ways to link them together. And they're performing all these calculations on these web pages. Now, when it looks at your web page or your website, it's trying to determine a lot of different things. It's trying to understand more about the thing that you sell, whether or not you're a trusted resource, whether or not you're still open for business, if people can, easily access your website, if there are any things like, is it mobile friendly? So it's looking at a ton of things. And it's looking at not just you, but it's also looking at your competitors and trying to understand who out of your marketplace is the more trusted resources, who is the best authority when it comes to your particular industry in your subject or topic that you're marketing about. So this is the reason why you really need to think about search engine optimization as a process that's ongoing, because these bots, they don't just do it once and stop. They continue to index and organize content on the website so that when people search for something, they can easily find it. So yes, these are bots and spiders. They gather information on the web and they learn this content really well and they store it. They also want to detect for if pages or websites are a complete waste of a user's time. They're looking at, like I mentioned, authority, but other things like relevancy, some of the links that are in your website, if it's a trusted website, if it has spammy types of banner ads, it's going to be looking at that too and say, oh, don't send users here. If you are doing things like online transactions and you don't have something like SSL or a secure website with a SSL certificate, it might tell people, you might not want to go to this website. And if your site is really, really in poor shape, you might not notice it, but Google may be penalizing you and putting you further and further away from the first page where everyone really wants to be and be found when a potential customer is doing a web search on you. So a lot of times businesses will want to be found on the first page. Of course, everybody wants to be at the top when it comes to looking at when searching for a product or a type of service. But to get to that first page, to get to that top result is so difficult. It requires ongoing work. It's a process. And you have to make sure that you're checking the box for a lot of these different things. And if your content is really poor, you could be penalized and your website might not be found on some of the first sets of pages that Google might be looking at, or people might be looking at when they're looking for your service.
Hey, Michael.
Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to take a quick pause and just check in with everyone and make sure we're understanding everything about bots and the crawlers and the spiders and all the things. Are we on track? You can, put a thumbs up if you want. You can tell us in the chat if you're following along, or if maybe there's something that we need to explain. I say we, right? Like I'm the one explaining this. But if Michael needs to explain a little bit further. All right, I see thumbs up. Let me just click through. What kind? Okay, so we have a question. Andrea says, what kind of things penalize your site? And then if anyone else has questions or you're like, I don't know what he's talking about, not that you're doing anything wrong, Michael. I just want to make sure we're on track here. Kiara, thank you. Thumbs up. All right. So it looks like most people are kind of understanding this, but to Andrea's question, Michael, what kind of things penalize your site?
That's a great question. Thank you so much, Jahida, for stopping us to make sure people are understanding.
No problem.
Yeah. So the things that can penalize your website are things like load time. If your site takes a long time to load the text, the images, that can count against you, because people want, people want content. They want their information. They want it now. They want it as soon as possible. But Google is tracking the time it takes for your page to load. And if your page loads slower than others, then you're going to be ranked or penalized. That's one example. Another example is if you don't have things like your alt attribute completed on a lot of your images on your website. So the alt attribute for your images, it's there to help the user, if they're reading impaired, be able to use a screen reader to tell them what the image is that they can't see. And sometimes that could count against you as being a site that's not user friendly or friendly toward visually impaired users. Another thing I want to say too is if the site isn't mobile ready and people have to pinch and zoom and gyrate their device so that they can read things, that's also going to count against you. And the site that does have it, your competitor, if they have that, they're going to be ranked probably above you. So those are things that could be counted against you or penalized in terms of your website. So I hope that helps answer your question.
Thank you, Michael.
Sure thing. All right. So that's a fantastic question. And I know a lot of times when we're talking about marketing, it's like, okay, let's launch this ad. I want to see this billboard and, look at this social media post. And yeah, those things are pretty exciting. And I think search engine optimization is pretty exciting too. But some of this technical stuff and understanding it is really going to help you be that much more competitive in the marketplace versus your competitor. You're going to have an advantage over them. Let's take these three terms here, and there are a few more too. An algorithm. And I think we've talked about this term before when we've been talking about social media, but all an algorithm is a set of programmed rules or instructions that a computer might perform some sort of calculation on. Now, how does this relate to search in Google and search engine optimization? Well, Google has an algorithm that weighs all those different factors, like the time it takes to load a page, whether it's mobile friendly, the images, if they take too big or if they take too long to load, all these different things. And then it creates this ranking. And this ranking determines how far up on the will be. So in order to kind of help figure that out with the information they get from those bots, that's what the algorithm does. And there's not just one algorithm, there are many algorithms that help Google do what they do. Bounce rate. This term gets used quite a bit. And when we were looking at analytics, this is particularly helpful. So bounce rate is a percentage of web visitors who go to a website and just immediately leave after viewing a single page. All right. And in general, you're going to have a bounce rate. You're never going to have a bounce rate that's 0%. That would just be too easy. That's never going to happen. You're always going to have a bounce rate. You never want to have a bounce rate that's like 99 or 98%. Though if it's too low, like 10%, something is really wrong. there's maybe something on your website that's not calculating the bounce rate correctly. So a good sweet spot may be somewhere in the 60s, 70s, or 80s in terms of the bounce rate. And it's something that you don't want to just look at once and never look at again, but you should be looking at it regularly to track how well your content is doing. Oh, there's a great question here in the chat. Is there a checklist that can be used to check your website? Yes, there is. Google has a page speed tool. And if you do a Google search on Google and page speed, you should probably find it right up there at the top. And what this tool does is you give it your URL for your website, and then it performs all these different tests on the background. And it will tell you how well you report on certain things. And it'll tell you hints, to give you hints of things that you should fix or look into. So if you go to Google and you do a search for a page speed tool, I'll see if I can locate that in a short while for you, the exact URL. And when I'm referring to page speed, talking about how fast the page loads. Like if the page loads like really, really slowly over a really good connection, or even a mobile connection, then that's going to be a factor that draws against you. So in general, Google has a benchmark that they look at, and they determine, okay, this is kind of like a sweet spot on where you need to be if your page is supposed to load. And they figure that out after looking at many, many, many websites. And I don't know exactly what that number is, but they have that data to determine, okay, your site is performing much slower than other sites in your similar category. These are the things that you need to fix. Okay.
I just put the URL in the chat for everyone. So it looks like I'm actually testing our own website out to see what kind of comes up. But you just basically paste in your website URL, and then it'll kind of do the whole analysis from there. And then you can kind of figure out where you can fix things. But it looks like there are multiple tools. Is that correct, Michael?
Oh, yes, absolutely. There's a lot of different tools out there. Some of them are free, and then some of them are paid that will look at things in more detail, that you can do multiple, searches and, really fancy reports on. So there are a lot of resources out there. All right, great question. And thank you for pulling up that URL. Sitemap is last one on this page. And Sitemap is a blueprint of your site. It's like an XML file. And it's not something that you necessarily have to code up yourself and write line by line. It's something that can be generated, and it just helps search engines understand how to crawl and index your website. Okay, that's more of a technical thing that I wouldn't say you need to worry about right this minute, but if your site doesn't have one, you should really consider finding a way to generate one for your website. Keywords. Keywords are basically words that describe the content on your website. These are the terms people might use if you want to be found for those particular things or products, your products or services. So if you may be in the baking business, you want to be found for a bakery near a particular city that you're in, or a bakery that makes cinnamon rolls or something like that. If you're an attorney that does intellectual property law in New York State, you want to be found for those words if someone does a Google search on it. So those are just some keywords in general. But there are 4 types of keywords. Informational, navigational, commercial, and transactional. I don't want to spend too much time here, but I just want you to know that there are just 4 categories of keywords. The one that you probably might find most useful is the transactional one, when a searcher needs to complete an action or purchase. So this is like, I'm ready to make a decision. I need something to solve my problem right now. And I need to find a company that can do that. You're probably going to be pretty concerned with the words that somebody's going to put into a search engine that's going to get them closer to making a sale with you. These other ones do matter, but certainly the transactional ones are the ones that you certainly want to be concerned with. The last thing here on this page, long tail versus short tail keywords. Long tail keywords are very long, very specific keywords that are usually done when someone's very closer to making a purchase. Short tail, so as an example, something that's very specific, like when is the best time to get a bookkeeper for a small business? That is very specific. Small business, a bookkeeper, when is it a good time? It's almost like you're asking a question. And if I'm asking that question, I'm really looking for a bookkeeper for my small business, as an example. A short tail keyword, on the other hand, is simply a phrase with 1, 2, maybe 3 words. Bookkeeper. That's very vague. And the results I'm gonna get, it's gonna be a lot, but it doesn't show that I'm like really in need for a bookkeeper right now. It's not specific. So here's some more examples. Short tail keyword, looking for pizza. This is perfect because is maybe lunchtime for a lot of us, right? So pizza, gluten-free recipes, hummus, dark chocolate chips. These are short tail keywords. Long tail keywords, on the other hand, would be pizza dough recipes with self-rising flour. That's very specific. Gluten-free pasta that actually tastes good. Now, so that's a long tail keyword. And maybe you're a fan of gluten-free pasta, maybe you aren't, but maybe you just want to know specifically about this type of pasta. Perfect timing with these keywords here. How to make hummus in a blender, or are dark chocolate chips healthy for weight loss? So these are very specific keywords. Now I turn this on you. Curious to know what type of keywords, short or long, do you expect your customer to be searching for when they're looking for you and your products? So if you could just throw that into the chat, I would love to see what you're thinking about. They could be short or long tail keywords that people might use to be, that they might use to look for you and your product and service.
So there you go. Andrea has in there raw hair. I can think, there you go, Shayna. I was thinking of you, doula. Soy candle. Massage. Okay, food pantry. We have a couple good ones coming through. Any long tail keywords?
Okay. Some of the long tail ones could be like questions too, that people you think might ask if they're looking for you.
Like I'm assuming maybe for something like Shayna, what's the difference between a doula and having a baby at a hospital?
All right, there's some really good ones in here. How to swaddle a baby, how to help homeless, what's needed to install a wig at home. There's some really good ones. Super. Thank you, folks. Fantastic. All right. Also, this is a good time to also pause and just check in with everyone and see if anyone has any questions. Feel free to speak up. take yourself off mute. If you have a question, happy to answer it and happy to shed some light on this wonderful topic of search engine optimization.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is there like a list of best SEO practices we could get?
I don't have one specifically on SEO, but there are a number of them out there. And actually, I could put something together that wouldn't take a lot of time based on these slides. So, so a list of best practices?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure thing. I can get that for you. All right.
Thank you.
Sure. And if possible, maybe you can, if you have my contact information, let's see, I can get that to Jahida, and then she can distribute.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll make sure.
Okay. All right.
I'm actually going to include here in the chat as well. It's a blog via HubSpot, which is a great resource. They have a lot of like free resources as well. And it is pertaining to SEO and kind of what we're talking about today. And then, you know, when Michael sends over that list, then I can share it with everyone as well. But if you just click right now in the chat, you know, that particular blog post is there. And then Quania, I know she says, how do you get SSO?
Okay. SEO or SSO?
Quania, you can unmute yourself if you like.
Okay. I believe the one that I'm talking about is what you mentioned about for people with disability, not reading disabilities, but visual impairments to be able to know what the pictures are.
Yes.
I want to know, like, my question particularly is that if you're developing your own website, initially, how do you do that? Is it going to be costing more depending on the platform, or do some platforms offer that for free?
Gotcha. That is a fantastic question. So a lot of that, at least a lot of the things that you can do as a website owner to help make sure that people with impairments or disabilities can view your content. A lot of that is free to do. It can be considered time consuming if you hadn't done it, but it's not that you have to pay for any particular tool to do it. I give you an example. If you, for those alt attributes for your images, you can, almost every system will allow you to do this. WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, a lot of these tools will allow you to go in and put in what that word or set of words should be that explains what that image is. The problem is, and it just comes with the platform. But a lot of times what users won't do is they won't do it, and then they have this huge gallery or collection of images on their website, and they have to go and then start putting those alt attributes in. But a lot, like I said, it's free to do. It just takes, a little bit of extra work. The other thing I want to mention too is there are a bunch of tools out there. One that I can think of off the top of my head called Userway, and Userway is a tool that allows you to you can put your website in, and it will analyze your site and report back how many improvements you need to make sure your site is accessible to individuals with disabilities or impairment. It's certainly going to look for those things like alt tags that explain what the images are, but it's also going to look for things like the contrast of imagery that you have on your website. Like if there's not enough contrast between certain things on your site, that might count against you as far as accessibility is concerned. Or even if your text is too small, that can also count against you. And finally, there's another thing that can count against you too, is if you have buttons that are also too small or hard to detect on a page. But the great thing is UserWay, they have a free service that will go through your website, just like the page speed thing, similar to it. And it will analyze all the different things that you need to do to improve it. And then you can improve those things. And a lot of the times that's within your capabilities. On the rare case, you may need to hire a developer, like a web developer, to help you do those things. But that is usually rare. Most of the time it's things that you can do as a business owner. The other point I want to mention about this is that doing this once is never a great strategy. It's because it's something you need to do all the time, because maybe the tool might not find everything. Your content is going to be constantly changing. You're going to be writing new articles, or you're going to be updating your website. So you need to look at it on a regular basis to determine that your site is accessible and reported in a great way when tools are looking at your website. And thank you for putting the link in the chat, Jahida.
You're welcome. Quinia, does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. I really
Okay.
appreciate that answer.
All right, sure thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, fantastic. Thank you so much. So yeah, one of the things that folks say, well, in terms of keywords, are like, well, okay, great. I know what my keywords are, and I see clearly that in the chat, people know what their keywords are. But how do you use it? How do you really use this to your advantage? Well, you can make a list of short and long tail keywords that describe your business. Okay, we got that covered. But when making this list, of course, think about the relevance and your authority, how you can be competitive, or how can you show that you have authority in this particular thing. And think about the volume, and the volume is the popularity of the keyword. So the popularity of the keyword is not something that you can easily guess. You can't guess it. You need a special tool to help you figure that out. The tool is, now I'm going crazy with the tools today, but the tool is a keyword volume tool. And it will give you an idea of how many people are searching for a particular keyword and how competitive it is. So as an example, if I'm in the maybe that's not a great example. I'll say if I'm in the rug cleaning business, and I know that people are using the term rug cleaning, I'm probably going to get a lot, maybe thousands of results showing that people are using that term when they're searching for a rug cleaning business. So that keyword has great volume. So what I'm trying to say is, when you have all these keywords, put them in a spreadsheet so that you can understand things like relevance, authority, and volume. You might use a tool to help you understand, like, how many people are searching for this term that I want to be found for, or if nobody's searching for it. The other thing you want to do is perform a competitive analysis in your marketplace and see who's out there. See how they're being found. Are they appearing on the first page or in the results that you want to be found for? What are they doing to get, ahead in the search than, or higher on search results page than you are? There's some other tools I want to mention. Google Keyword Planner. There's a tool called Ahrefs and Uber Suggest. These are great keyword search tools. Certainly invest time in your content creation that aligns with your keywords. So what this means is, okay, great. I know I have some great keywords in in the chat, right? I'll pick one like maybe how to install a wig at home, right? And that's maybe my keyword. But okay, so maybe I could take the time and create content around that keyword. Maybe it's a set of videos, maybe it's an article, maybe it's a step-by-step guide on how to do this install at home, or wig maintenance, or certain types of wigs that are out there. So it's going to help me create content along the lines of the things that people are already searching for and the things that people have an interest in. So invest time in that content creation that aligns with your keywords. And then finally, track and measure your progress. You're going to be using things like we've talked about, analytics, to understand, well, okay, I've done this keyword research, I'm creating this content. Are people actually viewing the pages that I've written? Are they viewing the posts that I've made on social media? Do people care as to what I'm doing? Oh, it's showing some results. I'm seeing clicks. I'm seeing time spent on page. I'm seeing replies and comments. So I know that this is working for me. So definitely track and measure your progress. You can certainly ask users too about the things that the keywords or the phrases that they use when they search for your products. All right. So many great comments, and thank you for sharing those resources. In terms of paid search is another element, tactic that you might use to let people know about your business in terms of digital marketing, or even if you have an e-commerce business. But what it involves is paying for ad placements on a search engine results page. So why would you want to do this? Well, it helps you get noticed, and there's many more benefits that we're going to see shortly. But if you are doing your darndest to get on the front page of Google and you're having a hard time to do that, you can also pay for ad placements to appear at the very top of that search when people are searching for those keywords that we talked about. And if someone clicks on that, that is someone that is showing some intention. They need maybe someone to solve that problem, and that gets you closer and closer to a sale. So that's a reason why somebody might want to use paid search as a marketing tactic to get them sales. Now, just because you pay for an ad doesn't mean that you're going to get seen at the very top or seen all the time someone does a search. There are a lot of different factors that apply to that. All I want to say about that is, just like a lot of different things with marketing, it's never that one factor that contributes to how well you do. It's always a bunch of things. And in this case, if you do a paid search campaign, you may need to outbid or bid higher than your competitor. Your page quality, meaning like the content on your page, the images, if you have images, if it takes a short time to load or doesn't take as long to load, that's going to be counted in your favor. If you have popular keywords, if the context matters. For example, if I'm that rug cleaning business and I want to be found on for searches that are related to pizza, that's not great context. I'm wasting my money for my paid search campaign. But if you have all of these different things in place, you're going to get a higher placement when you do paid search campaigns. Now, pay-per-click is a digital advertising model. And sometimes people will say that paid search and pay-per-click are the same thing. They really aren't. You can do paid search and still use a pay-per-click model, but not all pay-per-click can be paid search, but it can also be paying per click on social media. So they're not the same. All you need to know here for pay-per-click is that when someone clicks on your ad, that's when you pay. That shows that you're paying for clicks, basically. The benefits of doing paid search ads are quite few, actually. There's so many ways you can target on these paid search platforms. You can target someone based on their location within a specific city, cities, a radius, their device that they're using, if they're using Android or an iPhone, or if they're using mobile or desktop, their language, their time of day, their search behavior, and on and on and on. There's so many ways that you can target your potential user. Of course, you've done the research to understand about your target audience and your target market, and that's going to help drive how you're going to target those folks when you do these paid search ads. You're going to be able to track your results within your paid search efforts, because in this platform, it's going to tell you you spent, this amount of money and you got this amount of clicks, you've got this amount of traffic. It's going to tell you right away on your results, and you can track that. You'll have fancy scheduling options to be able to show your paid search ads on certain times a day. It may be less in the night, or maybe you find that your audience is more available at night and not so much in the day. So you can really do some fancy scheduling. Your audience is most likely to buy on search when you're doing paid search campaigns. And paid search really supports your other marketing efforts, whether you're doing things like social media, if you're doing, blog content or video marketing, all these other efforts can be supported with your paid search campaign. And then finally, doing paid search helps provide some marketing data that you can use for better decision making. If you notice that with the money that you're paying for a paid search campaign for people to get onto your website, and that they're doing certain things, like going and visiting certain pages, that's going to help you determine which content you should write more of and which content you should write less of, or invest more in or less in. So those are just some examples. Now is a good time for me to kind of pause and ask if anyone has any questions before we continue.
It's Quinny again.
Yes.
I wanted to know if you are like a small business, but you also want to support other small businesses, would it help if you actually linked your closest friends that are also doing small businesses on your own website, so people can click and put something there that we love to support small businesses and have a link to people that that have small businesses? Would that help increase your likability, or would that be too much clutter on your website?
That's a great question. I think that's a really good way to kind of bring together your resources and not just help others, but you're helping yourself, but you're also helping others. So I don't think it will add too much clutter at all. Over time, though, what is going to happen is that some of your resources, your other small businesses, they will start to be found. Well, let me put it this way. You will start to be found for content that they're maybe they're putting out. So it's going to create more opportunities for you to come up in search. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. It can only be a not so great thing if you want to distance yourself away from that business that you had done some sort of partnership with. But overall, I think that it's a great way to, form a strategic partnership that allows you to take advantage of your audience and share some of those business resources, consumers.
Yes, thank you. I do medical transportation, so I feel like I could help people who are also doing things kind of in the same field, maybe the doula who may need someone to be transported to her appointments, stuff like that. So that's what I was thinking more of along the lines of, I don't know if I want to do completely like somebody's restaurant, because it probably doesn't apply to my
Right.
people who are involved with people that are going to need health services.
Mhm.
That's what I'm thinking.
Mm.
I wanted to actually add to that too and say, because she mentioned it, like, because I know for sure that I have clients that can't get to me all the time, and I'm running it from home, it would be good to have a partnership with her. And I was just wondering about the same thing, because I have moms that need to get here.
Mm. Right. That fantastic. I think that is a brilliant way to make use of, you know, some of the partnerships in the community that you that makes it easier for the consumer to get what they want. And that can, you never know, that can spurn off another business, or not a completely other business, but more business into your business. If, for example, I'm thinking like maybe it's a business directory that you can publish, or maybe maybe it's for free, maybe something that you don't charge people for, or maybe you go live and interview, you know, a business owner in that same space, you know, that other resource, that partnership, and have them talk about their business, and you're just kind of sharing your audiences. So that it's fantastic. Thank you. Anyone else? Any questions?
I just want to remind people, you see what I mean by like, you never know who's going to be on this call, like who you can collaborate with. Just putting it out there.
Nice, nice. I love it. I love it. All right. Okay, folks. Paid social is paid advertising on social media channels. We talked about paid search. Paid social is strictly for our social media. And this definitely is a way to be strategic with your marketing efforts. Now, boosting a post here and there I wouldn't say that's strategic unless you're specifically looking at certain posts that you might want to boost. But in general, paid social media is a great marketing tactic to achieve some of these great goals. I want more awareness for my business. I want people to consider my business more. I want to get people to convert. I want more sales. This is a great way to get people to take part in all of these different goals. Very strategic. And of course, you can always, you know, there's lots of social media platforms, some more popular than others, that you might want to advertise on. I don't think it's a good idea to advertise on everything, because your customers may not be on that particular platform. So it really makes, it depends on where your customers potentially are. And yes, you could totally advertise on Reddit. Some people find that hard to believe, but you can even advertise on some of the lesser known social media channels as well. But the benefits are, you do have many targeting options similar to paid search. You can target based on location. I want to target people within a 50-mile radius of Buffalo, New York. Or I want to target people in cities like Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles. I mean, you can target like bonkers there. Interest, maybe people have, you know, interests in small business or entrepreneurship, or you know, mompreneurs, or interests in, you know, gluten-free pizza. I mean, there's a number of interests that are available in these social media, paid social media managers platforms. Device, language and time of day are also great targeting options. It can be very cost effective. if you manage your money correctly in terms of what you're spending on paid social. Just like with paid search, you can track your results. You can make, you have access to scheduling options. It does support your other marketing efforts. If you want to get traffic to your website, check. If you want to get more people into your mailing list, check. Paid social can help you do those things. It does give you data to make better marketing decisions. And you can do some fantastic things like growing your social media audience, increasing your reach, increasing your engagement. And of course, your customers are just already there on social media. So I'm curious to know, just a quick question, would love to hear this in the chat. Who has tried paid social in the past? And on what channel have you tried this? Have you tried doing Facebook ads? Have you tried LinkedIn, Instagram? Just curious to know what you've tried. And I'm curious to get a volunteer or two to tell us what your experience was like. Did it help you accomplish your goal? Feel free to come off mic and tell us what your experience was quickly.
Can I tell you my first experience?
Yes, please.
Because
yes,
I'm learning so much now, so I know it'll only get better, right? But the very first time, I think I just used $10 and didn't have a clue what I was doing.
Okay.
And it just kept repeating. Like I just kept paying for it, even though I didn't know what I was doing. It got me 0 results. And I ended up just like coming out of it completely and just, I said, I'll learn some more about it. So I realized that like the first time I went around, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Right. But it was the experience that led me to, I need to learn more about it. So, I mean, I think I fudged it for a little bit and then I was like, okay, this is silly. So right. I stopped doing it. It was a waste of money because I don't think I understood it from this vantage point. And I was really just getting started. So I didn't necessarily even know like my target market and like all of this other stuff. So now you'll see my ads a lot. Now that I'm learning, you'll see them a lot and they're, you know, pretty aggressive, but I mean, and well, only if you're expecting to have a baby soon or any of that stuff. But, you know, now I understand a little bit better, but the first time I was not good. At all.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. That I'm glad you said that because a lot of the times, yeah, we think, yeah, $10 here, $10 there, and yeah, it starts to add up, right? Yeah, certainly. And thank you so much for sharing. I'm seeing some other ones in the chat. I see people have done some things on Facebook and Facebook and Google, Facebook and Snapchat. Someone tried for only a few days and wasn't sure what they were doing. Facebook for Kwanzaa celebration, and it was free credit. Oh, yes, totally. I'm glad you mentioned that. So occasionally, these social media channels will give you free credit, like a $500 credit or a $100 credit to start running ads. And that can be great. It gets you learning about the platform. But it's when they're doing that, they're not exactly helpful in a way that helps you spend that credit in the best way possible. So if you ever get a credit, make sure you read up. Of course, things like this are helpful so that you can understand the benefits of it. Know what the targeting options are before you start using that credit. And if you've used up your credit, that's okay too. Your next time that you put a budget out there for spending, you be very conservative with your paid social monies and understand a lot about your audience before you go ahead and do it. Okay. Fantastic. These are great comments here. Anyone else want to tell us about their experience with paid social before we continue? Okay. One other comment here too. And this can sometimes trigger a business owner to do something. This is a great question that just came up. Social media giants like Facebook, they will often do things like send you notifications to say, oh, if you spend $35, you can get, this many people to see your post. Or if you spend, $5 more. And I'm not saying it's a scam, but they're triggering something psychologically in you as a person. It's that fear of missing out, the fear of not knowing what's on the other side. And I can't tell you how many times that makes business owners spend that money without really thinking why they're spending it, and taking the time to say, you know what, I'm not going to spend it because they say so. I'm going to spend it when I'm ready. So sometimes when they do those notifications, it forces you to spend without really being prepared for it. So just be careful of those kinds of things. Yes. There's no rush. You don't have to do it when they say do it. You do it when you're ready. There's a great question here in the comments. So they make you spend the credit how they feel you should. Can you give me that question, Sarah?
Yes. So what I mean by that is basically like, so they give you this credit once you go ahead and pay for the advertisement or what have you. And then they say, okay, you need to spend this credit doing this amount of advertising. And they is it like they put it out there to whatever target market they choose to put it out there to, or you know what I mean? Like,
okay.
Like do they cater how that credit is spent? Do they you know what I mean? I can't think of the word right now. My brain is a little mush, but you know what I mean? Am I making sense?
I think I'm getting what you're saying here. Thank you for that question.
Yeah.
So yeah, they will put out that they'll tell you about the credit, and they try to give the credit to businesses that haven't done any social media posts, or sometimes if you haven't done any social media campaigns, they'll give you the credit to attract you. What they do with that, they don't tell you how you should target with that credit. They will sometimes use a little bit of either this expires within a week, so you got to use this credit. So you feel that's like one of the only
pressure.
Yes.
To use it, and you're not really ready, and that type of thing, kind of what you were just speaking of.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I get it.
Yeah, and the credit is free. It is that free money, credits, but they want you to get so attracted to the idea of seeing some of those metrics that may not be, they seem good, like, oh, a lot of people viewed my page, but that doesn't exactly translate to sales right away.
Right. Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. All right. So yeah, certainly look into the credits, and just don't feel the pressure to use them when they give them to you, because they will be back around later on to give you the credit. And let's say you never take the credit. That's fine. I would rather you spend your money and be ready to take advantage of a social media campaign than you just spending your money or using that credit and just not knowing what you're doing. So I hope that helps. All right. So the different types of social media ads that are out there. You could do video ads, you could do stories, Instagram stories or Facebook stories ads, which can be pretty cool when you're using like a vertical video kind of situation. And it's short. Maybe you're clicking through panels or tapping through panels. You could do post ads, promoted pins for Pinterest, sponsored posts, maybe on LinkedIn, boosted posts. Certainly you can be growing your social media audience. There are things like lead generation forms. They exist on LinkedIn and on Facebook and also on Instagram. So what these are is that they're ads that tell you about a product that you might want to check out. And if you want to learn more about it or get more information, they take you to a screen where it pre-fills your information, like your name and your email, because your social media platform has that already. So then all you have to do is click submit. And what that does, it sends your information to the advertiser, your name and your email. So they have that, and then the advertiser can market to that person that requested that information. So you could do something similar to that, where you ask a question like, maybe you want to know the person's name and their email address. Okay, that's an easy peasy one. Or maybe you want to know their company name, or maybe you want to know how much they spend on marketing every year or every month or something like that. Or even if they have a service that takes care of, the thing that you sell in there for their home. Other social media ads that you could use are ones that improve engagement, and messenger ads as well. All right. Whatever you do, if you advertise on for paid search or paid social, I cannot emphasize how important it is to have an overall strategy and goals. Now, I'm not saying you have to have a document that's like, bam, like, 50 pages of a strategy with goals in it. You could have a 1-page strategy with goals in it. That is acceptable, but you need to do that to organize your thinking about why you're spending the money on this paid search or paid social campaign, and the reasons why you're doing it, and the outcome that you're looking to get as a result of doing so. And once you do that strategy and that thinking, that planning, is going to help you come up with the copy or the writing, and as well as the visuals that you're going to use around creating your overall at your campaign. So I just want to make sure to put that out there so that people know. You don't have to have, a huge document with your strategy. It could be literally a 1-pager, but you do have to do the thinking and organize what your goals will be. At this point, we're going to go through and get you some the 5 misconceptions and myths about paid social. Number 1, I need thousands of dollars to run a paid social media campaign. Absolutely not. You don't need thousands of dollars. You can literally start with hundreds of dollars, or you can start with $50 and just track and measure how that performs for you. If you know all the things about, the strategy, like you've done, maybe you did that, you understand who you want to target, and you want to see how far this $50 can take me toward getting me closer to a customer. All right. So myth busted. You don't need thousands of dollars to run a paid social media campaign. All right. Myth 2, a strategy is overkill when it comes to paid social media. Just boost ads. Why do I need this strategy thing? Strategy really isn't overkill. What the strategy will allow you to do as a business owner is gonna help you think, like I just said, help you think about who you need to target, what kinds of messaging needs to be in that ad, where are you going to find these people? Is this going to help you answer a lot of questions before you go ahead and spend your money? All right. And just boosting posts here and there is not a strategy. It's a tactic, but it's not exactly a strategy. Myth number 3, social media is all I need to market myself for my business. Well, social media is very helpful and it's definitely a piece of the puzzle, but I wouldn't say it's all you need. And some people do run their business just on social media. Maybe if you're an influencer, you probably could do that. But even influencers need other things besides social media to market themselves. They're going to find themselves creating a website. They might find themselves doing some Google search, or maybe events, or putting content out there, or just doing other kinds of things to market themselves or their business. So social media, again, is just a piece of the puzzle, but it is a very helpful piece of that puzzle. Myth number 4, I need my business social media accounts to have thousands of followers to make sales. Absolutely not. You just need some. You don't need thousands. In fact, you can have thousands of people as users or followers on your page, and they never interact with you. They never engage you. Maybe they never. Maybe they send you spam or something like that. You really need to have just a few engaged followers that you build a rapport with, that would love to do sales with you, or perhaps purchase some of your products and services. All right, so you don't need thousands. Last myth. Yes, and certainly they may mute your notifications as well too. Certainly, those are folks that definitely, they want to know what you're up to, but they don't want to see things up to the minute. All right, thank you for that. Last myth. All I have to do is create my campaign and ads and let them run. Just set it up, set it and forget it. And this myth is definitely not truth. If you run a social media campaign, or any campaign for that matter, you can't just let it run. You can't just set it and forget it and just never pay attention to the results in the traffic and how it's performing. You always want to be keeping tabs on it. I'll give you an example. Company was doing some paid social media campaigns to let people know about a new service that they launched. And while they set this to start in the middle of a week, they let it run and didn't follow up on a daily basis. By the next week, when they came in on Monday, they started to see all these bad and negative comments about how bad their service was. So, and they didn't cut the ad, they didn't respond to the ad, and it was a bad look for the company. So you always want to be paying attention to some of the things that you might expect. Maybe the ad is not performing well, or maybe you just want to switch ads, or maybe the ad is not getting a good response, maybe because it's something that was just overlooked. So never run a campaign that you just set it and forget it. Always stay on top of it and track your results. We're at the point of the end of this part for the session. I want to tell you about a Canva coaching program that I do have. If you have never heard of Canva, Canva is a graphic design platform that allows you to create amazing imagery for social media, for posters, business cards, all kinds of things that you may need for your business. I have a program where I work with you hands-on in an intensive coaching and help you really make use of this tool. Running this campaign through the start of summer with the promo code SummerSoon. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. And finally, I do have resources on my website at michaelroachcreative.com/resources. There I have courses, guides, worksheets, templates, a lot of the different things that you'll need to help market your business and get it in front of the customer who you want to do business with, your ideal customer. All right. So there's lots of stuff there, lots of free goodies and some valuable goodies as well. And I simply want to thank you for being with me and Jahida and some of the other folks on the at PathStone to help inform you and educate you, had some laughs, some fun on this wonderful topic of digital marketing. and how you can use this to help grow your business.